Hey everybody, it's Boo-Ray Perry, and today we are going to be taking a look at the WCL X100II. This is the wide-angle lens attachment for the Fuji X100 series of cameras. Before we get started, don't forget to be sure and check out my podcast. It's called Photobomb. It's available anywhere that podcasts are found. I also have a group on Facebook called Pro Photo Talk with Boo-Ray Perry. Also, if you go down into the description, you'll find a link to my website. And on that special page just for you, I've listed every piece of gear that I own. Everything. My Canon gear, my professional wedding and event gear, as well as my X100 gear, and all the accessories and stuff that I use on my X100. So if you like this strap, that's where you can buy it right there. And if you do that and you use those links, I'm going to get like 5 cents or a dime or something like that, and it helps me to buy more stuff that I can make videos about. So please be sure and check out my webpage. I also click like, click subscribe, and comment, because it helps me get more people to see these videos. All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this lens. I want to first run down some of the specifics on this lens, and then we're going to talk about the feel of the lens and how I feel using the lens, and maybe help you make a decision if you're thinking about buying it. So first of all, this is a very good lens. I don't think you're going to find anyone who reviews this lens who doesn't say that it's absolutely a quality piece of material. So it screws onto the front of the camera. It doesn't interlock. This is one that it'd be great if it was, quick lock, but that's not what this camera's made for. It doesn't have interchangeable lenses, so it has to screw on, just like a filter would screw onto the front of your camera. So this is the actual piece right here. Doesn't seem that big, right? Quality, glass is quality. Images are fantastic. You're not going to notice a difference between an image shot with this or an image shot with just this. You're absolutely not going to be able to see a difference there. It's quality glass. Where you are going to see a difference is in the specifics. I put the camera on a scale, and it weighed in at 17.2 ounces. And then I put the lens on a scale, and it weighed in at 5.1 ounces. So that's a 30% increase in weight. That's substantial. And also, if you measure the camera this way, right? I guess depth would be a way to describe this. Depth, width. It measures in at 2.5 inches. When you put this lens on it, it now adds an inch to the camera. So that's a 40% increase in the size of the camera. So 30% more weight and 40% more depth to your camera. This is substantial when you're talking about a camera that is beloved because it is so small. You take this thing, right? Put this around your neck compared to just having this around your neck. It's substantial. It makes the camera stand out a little bit more. And one of the things we love about this camera is that it is so, unnoticeable. People think it's a toy hanging around your neck. So the real question becomes, if we're talking about a quality lens, right? It definitely does the job. What we really have to ascertain is it worth the extra weight? Is it worth the extra size to your camera? That's really something that's kind of hard to decide. Okay, just a little bit more technical stuff. The camera itself shoots with a 35mm equivalent lens, and when you put this lens on it, now you're at 28mm. And for the longest time, I thought, that doesn't really seem like much of a difference, right? I mean, 35mm to 28mm is not that big. But the thing is, if you just think of it in terms of, okay, 35 to 28 is what, 7mm? That's not going to make that much of a difference in your images. But if you think of it in terms of, say, the human eye is supposedly about 22 to 24mm. So if you want a picture to be basically what you see with the human eye, 22 to 24mm is what you need. This is 28mm coming down from 35mm. So that's what? Half the distance maybe? Let's do the math real quick. So 35mm is the human eye, and then you want to get down to about 23mm. So that's 7 and 5 is 13, and this is 28mm. So that's 5, 6, 7. So it's 7 of the 13mm that you need. So you cut half the distance between 35mm and the human eye by putting this on. It's all about numbers, right? You can look at things a lot of different ways. I always tell people that when they give you the number, ask them for the percentage, and when they give you the percentage, ask them for the number, because they're always going to give you the one that makes their argument sound the most favorable. So if you're looking at the number, doesn't seem like that many millimeters, but if you're looking at the percentage, it's actually quite a lot in between the human eye and 35 millimeter. All right, so that's enough detailed statistical math analogy stuff. Let's look at some pictures. So first things first, let's look at some technical limitations of the lens. And the first thing I wanted to test was focus distance if you're using the camera to do macro photography. So I took this picture using the camera without the wide-angle lens, and I got as close as I could before the camera refused to focus anymore. And this is as close as I could get to this picture. One of the great things about upgrading to the Fuji X100V from the F, I had the F and I had the S before that, is that this camera will focus so sharp wide open. Just fantastic wide open. It's got to be probably the best feature about this upgrade. So here we go. I'm as close as I can get with the camera doing its autofocus to this particular propeller. Now here is as close as I could get once I put the wide angle lens on. It's actually pretty simple. The camera can only get so close to the subject, and this lens makes the camera 1 inch longer, so you have to back the camera up 1 inch. So you're backing the camera up 1 inch, plus it's a wide-angle lens, so you're going to have a little bit wider picture, which of course is what you're looking for. It's a wide-angle lens. I really don't think this is an important thing to dwell on. You can't get quite as close with this lens, but usually you're not going to shoot macro photography with a wide-angle lens anyway. So I did want to just do this so we could try and cover all of the bases on this lens. Next up, I wanted to test out the practical width of the images. In other words, you're getting an extra 7 millimeters to your images. Is this something you're really going to notice that much? So I am 27 inches away from these little ghosts when I took this picture. I did it on a tripod so the camera wouldn't move. And then I put the wide angle lens on and I took the picture again. So at just over 2 feet, you can see that it is a substantial difference between the first picture and the second picture. You're getting quite a bit more width here, even when you're as close as 2 feet from your subject. And I'm going to have another example of this a little bit later in the video. So yeah, I felt, I'm getting some width here. I'm getting some value for this money that I'm spending on the lens. But where the value really starts to show up is when you are far away from your subject. So off we go to the backyard to take a picture of the lake that is behind my house. So here's the lake behind my house, and then from the same position, here's the same shot with the wide angle lens. And you can see that the farther you are from your subject, the bigger effect the wide angle is going to have. So if you are a person who likes to shoot a lot of landscapes, I think that a lens like this is kind of a no-brainer. The real question is it the right lens if you're somebody like me who doesn't really do a lot of landscapes, but does more close-up activity? Is it going to be wide enough close-up to make a difference? So let's take a look at that. So off we go to the high school, where my daughters are performing with the high school band, and all the parents are coming out to watch it. I am sitting right next to my wife, and I turned and I took a picture of her with the camera without the wide-angle lens on, and then I did it again with the wide-angle lens. I'll be the first one to tell you I was surprised at the difference that the lens made. I have resisted buying this lens because I thought that it really wasn't going to give me a very noticeable difference when I was close to people, and I tend to be close to people more often than I'm not. But no, it is definitely a noticeable difference. When you are sitting at a table with someone or sitting on the bleachers with somebody, if you try to take a picture of that person or a person in conversation, these are the kind of pictures I love to take, it closes in pretty tight. There's usually very little space between the top of their head and the top of the frame, or the bottom of their head and the bottom of the frame. But when you've got this lens on the camera, you get much more atmosphere in the shot, which is the sort of thing I'm looking for when I'm shooting pictures, say, in a noisy bar, places like that where I like to take pictures. Here's the band in the bleachers with the wide-angle lens, and the same shot without the wide-angle lens. Here's the color guard marching out to the field to begin their performance with their flags and their rifles and their sabers. And here's the same image edited and cropped to be a little bit nicer. So what have we learned? I've taken the lens around my house, and I've taken it to a football field, and I've taken some pictures with it. None of them especially remarkable. But I always think that when you're trying to evaluate a lens, that seeing pretty pictures with it is not necessarily the way to evaluate the lens, because a good photographer can take great pictures with any lens or any camera. Really, you want to try and be a little bit more objective and try and figure out how the lens is going to work for you. And so that's really what I was doing when I was testing this lens. What have we discovered? What have we found out? Well, we have found out that this is a lens that is worth the money. You are getting a quality piece of hardware. You are absolutely going to enjoy this lens. It's going to do a good job for you. It's going to do exactly what it is advertised to do for you. By the way, if you want to buy one, again, use the link in the bottom, and please click my Amazon link to buy it, because then I'll get like $1 or something along those lines. It's quality. It's worth the money. Absolutely, it's worth the money. It is going to make a difference in your photographs. You are going to see a difference in your photographs when you use this lens. Oh, by the way, it's also pre-threaded, so you can put a little sun shield on there, right? What's bad about that, though, is if you want to take the lens off, you turn it counterclockwise, and it's also the way this turns. So if you go to take the lens off, you grab it and you turn it, this will come off in your hand. So what happens is you'll grab it and turn it, you'll take the lens off, and you won't realize that this is loose now. And if you try and pull the lens away with this is going to come off, right? So that's a big, you really got to be aware of that, or else you're going to take this, you're going to pull the lens off, and this is going to come loose, and the lens is going to drop. So if you're going to put this on, you've really got to be aware of that. It's almost enough to make me not want to use this ever, for fear that I'm going to do it. So, what's the bottom line? Pros, cons. Should you be buying this lens? I wish I could tell you that you absolutely should be buying this lens. But I think it really comes down to this. Does this lens do what it's supposed to do? Yes. Is it worth the money? Yes. Is it a quality piece of material? Yes. Will you enjoy using it? Yes. Do you need it? Will it make such a difference in your photography at the price that you have to pay for it, that you need it? You absolutely need it. And the answer to that is no. 28 millimeters is nice, but 35 millimeters can also get the job done. The camera will be smaller. The camera will be lighter. That's why you bought the camera in the first place. You absolutely do not need this lens. Will I be sending this lens back? No. No. I will not be sending it back, because I do not need it, but after using it, I definitely want it. So if you are looking to buy this lens, if you're thinking about buying this lens and you're trying to just justify buying this lens purely in an objective way, you're probably going to be able to come up with a reason not to buy this lens. I know, because I came up with that reason for probably, 5 or 6 years now that I've been using this camera, and I've always come up with a reason after watching videos why I should not get this lens. But now that I have this lens, you will pry it out of my hands when I'm dead, because it's a lovely, lovely lens, and I do enjoy using it, and I'm actually afraid that I'm going to start just keeping it on the camera all the time now. So I think that's the best assessment I can give you. You don't need this lens, but you might very well love this lens. All right, thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Leave me some comments. Go check out my gear page as well, and check out my group on Facebook, and I'll see you back here next time.